Hello everybody and welcome back to Random Vids. So, with Total Drama Plush now completely over with, I decided it'd be kind of a fun idea to look back on this past season, see what are the pros and cons of it, and kind of like let's talk about the history of in the making, the behind the scenes, the stuff that started the whole thing, during it, the middle, and of course talk about a bunch of other different things about this season, depending on, the cast choices, the placements, and of course our final three slash winners. Plus, how on earth did I decide to do all this anyway in the first place? Why did I want to do another series after Stuffed Animal Amazing Race? Well, we're going to find out today as we talk about Total Drama Plush Behind the Making, or Behind the Scenes. So with that, let's get started. So of course, first off, we have to start with our intro, right? So this intro is all completely made up and just in like a span of like probably 24 hours, but I think it turned out really well, and I'm glad that it did make a fun little intro for this season. Then of course you get to your castaways: Steve, Cole, Luigi, Bowser, Mario, Sonic, Stampy, Murphy, Wave, Hammer Bro, Daisy, Puppy Paws, Captain Toad, Alex, Amy, Bowser Jr., Wario, and Waluigi. So the plushie scenes and the whiteboard scenes were all filmed on a Saturday in like the afternoon. Then all the non-plushie scenes were filmed later that night, which I then put together into this one, well, I guess, short. And I think it turned out really nice. Still to this day, I think it turned out really nice, and it's probably something that I want to do in the future, too. But before we even start talking about our episodes, what inspired me to make a Total Drama Plush? Because obviously, I did Stuffed Animal Amazing Races in the past, as you know. Season 1, which I filmed back in May of 2020, literally the first things I ever filmed on my YouTube channel, and that's what inspired my YouTube channel, kind of in a way. And, it was kind of fun. I like doing these little competitions with with stuffed animals. And then, of course, a few months later, I did a Season 2 on this channel. So that was in the fall time of 2020. Then 3 years later, in the springtime of 2023, is when I finally did a Season 3, because, can't let a series die just like that. And then about a year and a half later, in the fall of 2024, is when I finished that series off with the All-Stars. Now, when I first started doing Total Drama Plush, it was something that I was thinking about for a few minutes, because I was really itching to do another something with the plushies. In fact, there's a few scrapped videos that I had in mind with the plushies. One of them, I was going to do a Mario Kart World with plushies, knockout tour style. So it was just going to be a bunch of plushies, racing around. But that video ended up getting scrapped just because of how ridiculously hard it would be to do something like that. Now, that did actually work its way into one of the challenges in this season, that being one of the ones in the Merge, where all the characters are racing back and forth. It's a difference between, 8 characters racing back and forth, between like 20 characters trying to race around. So, I kind of incorporated that into Total Drama Plush. But yeah, I was originally going to do like a Mario Kart World with plushies thing. But, so I want to say, I think it's 50-50. The 150% of it has to do with me wanting to do another series with, the plushies, Total Drama Plush. The other 50% has to do with one character, and I think we might know who that is. If not, welcome, Murphy. So if actually some behind the scenes of something you guys probably didn't know, not only was I really invested in the YouTube shorts and videos at the time that involved like Murphy and Mitzi and all of our favorite characters from that show, and I really liked Murphy a lot, and I knew I was getting a Murphy plush. And I don't know if I mentioned this before or not, but what's actually kind of funny is the same day that I filmed that intro, the plushies intro, is the same day that I got my Murphy plush too. Because I already knew in the back of my head that I wanted to start this Total Drama plush, but one of the contestants wasn't quite ready yet, wasn't here. So with me knowing that Murphy was going to be one of the contestants, I had to wait to start the series until I got the Murphy plush. And of course, as soon as I got the Murphy plush, that same day is when I filmed the intro, and I think it was the next day later then I started the series. So yeah, 50% of it was because, I was itching to do something with the plushes again. The other 50% had to do with Murphy. So yeah, it's great. I love it. Now, of course, one could argue that I just copied off my brother, but it was nothing like that. It was really just me wanting to do another series, and because Amazing Race was over, what's next, Survivor? So why the heck not? Plus, he's copied my videos before too, so yeah, just figured I'd throw that out there. So now that we kind of, got into the history of why I wanted to do this, let's talk about the contestants this season. So here we have all the contestants kind of lined up together. I still remember filming this intro. It took a minute, but it was still kind of fun. So of course you have your host, Firefly Mario. That was a gimme. That wasn't too hard, but I wasn't even thinking much of this. But because I love doing Knuckles so much as a character, I know I wasn't going to add him just because, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen my brother's channel, so this is going to be a spoiler alert to the people who do watch that channel. And speaking of which, before I do continue, I just want to say this video does have major spoilers for the people who have not seen this series. So if you haven't seen my Total John Plush series, watch that first and then come back and watch this one. But I don't know anyone who would want to watch this before that anyway, unless you want to get spoiled. So anyway, spoiler warning aside, Knuckles won one of his seasons. So I didn't want to have any of his winners be in any of my seasons, just because I don't want it to be like, oh, he won, so he's going to win again. No. So that's why I promoted Knuckles as being a co-host to Firefly Mario. And if you're just curious, the other person who won was Greedy. Greedy is nowhere to be seen in this season. But because Knuckles is such a fun character to do, I knew I wasn't going to put him as a contestant, but I put him as co-host for Firefly Mario. So I think that works out perfectly because he's fun. But let's talk about these other contenders. Obviously, it is a mix. If you think about Stuffed Animal Amazing Race form, it is a mix of a bunch of people from those series. Obviously, if you're counting Season 1, you see Bowser, Sonic, Wario, Mario, Luigi, Daisy, Bowser Jr., and that's basically it. If you're counting our Season 2s, you have, of course, you have Wave, you have Hammer Bro, you have Stampy. I think that's it, and then, unless you count Knuckles as co-host. Then, of course, Season 3, Steve and Puppy Paws, plus 4 brand new characters. Alex, Cole, Captain Toad, and, of course, Murphy. So, yeah, this was a cast that I was thinking about for some time. I obviously didn't want there to be too many boring teams out there, but I also wanted there to be a bunch of mixed personalities, if you know what I mean. And so let's talk about our 4 new characters for a minute. So let's start with Alex. Obviously, the only reason why Alex was not in Season 3 of Stuffed Animal Amazing Race is because we didn't have a plushie of her yet. So, thankfully, because I was doing this brand new series, I can now add her to the cast. Why the heck not? Cole, I think, for him, it was just because of the fact that he was a host in Stuffed Animal Amazing Race Season 4, but he's never really contended. He's never been a contender in anything. So I figured, why not? Why not have him as one of the 3 young characters this season? For Captain Toad, I figured Captain Toad's kind of funnier than Toad, so why the heck not? Why not put him in? And then, of course, Murphy, we already went through why for Murphy. So, yeah, then you have, of course, the mix of a whole bunch of other characters. So, now we have our cast. Let's kind of get into Episode 1 a little bit. So, Episode 1 started in October of 2025, and it was fun to make. Something I do want to talk about is our elimination order, too. I'm not going to really talk about it per episode. We're just going to kind of talk about it here. So, I remember before I started this series, I already had the first 4 characters in mind of who I was going to get eliminated. That being, of course, once again, major spoiler alert if you haven't seen this, but the first 4 characters that did get eliminated, which was already pre-planned, for me, was last place be Bowser Jr., followed by Captain Toad, Amy, and then Luigi. So, this is where it gets a little funny. So, originally when I started this season, the 2 contenders, Peach and Luigi, were not supposed to be anywhere in this season. I wanted to, because of all the funniness of like the Mario Party gameplays and the scum videos where you get to see a whole bunch of Luigi and Peach and their funny drama. So I wanted to kind of give that a little bit of a break. And because Luigi and Peach are 2 of the 4 main Mario characters, I wanted to kind of also give them a break as well. But when I was coming up with the cast, I started kind of running out of ideas. So then I did eventually add Luigi to this season. So that's a little fun fact for you guys. Luigi was not even supposed to be nowhere in this season, which is why Luigi got out so early for people like you. Now you know why Luigi got out as early as he did, because it wasn't even supposed to be in this season. Now for the other 4 characters, I was just kind of like, either I did them a lot, or I just don't really care to do them. Bowser Jr., I'm like, well, For Captain Toad, once again, I was just like, well, why not? I'm not really focusing on Captain Toad this season. There's many other stupid characters in this season that I'd much rather have. For Amy, same thing, kind of like Bowser Jr. I was like, well, Amy or Sonic, which one would I rather do? I'd rather do Sonic over Amy. I think he's much more of an interesting character. So, I had to get Amy out earlier. And then, of course, Luigi already said the reasons. And besides this fact, once again, another big spoiler alert, but he also has won the very first season of Stuffed Animal Amazing Race. So there was no way in heck I was letting any of the winners make it far, which was only 3 this season, only 3 winners. But, yeah, I wasn't going to have them make it that far, just because of the fact that they have already won a series, which means they've already made it far. Daisy and Peach has made it far in both of their seasons. So, and you can argue the same for Stampy, but I didn't want too many of the silly characters to get eliminated super early. Speaking of which, so we have our 4 character eliminations. So now let's get to our 5th, which that ended up being Puppy Paws. Originally, this was another one that I was switching up. Originally, it was supposed to be Cole who was going to get in whatever place, the 5th one eliminated. But I figured Puppy Paws already had 2 seasons of screen time, where Cole has had 0. Unless you count him being a host, I hardly count that, though. So I figured I wanted to give Cole more screen time opposed to Puppy Paws. Originally, I wanted Puppy Paws to beat Daisy, just because I thought that'd be funny, and it'd be different. But I wanted to give Cole more screen time opposed to Puppy Paws, who already has Christmas Sitcom and 2 other seasons of Amazing Race, where Cole has had basically 0. So yeah, that's why Puppy Paws was the next one eliminated. After that, then, yep, it ended up being Daisy. I didn't want Daisy to make it stupidly far just because of the fact that she has already won. And I know that there's certain people, not naming any names, but definitely aren't the biggest Daisy fans and doesn't mind seeing Daisy get eliminated fairly early. Honestly, I agree with you. Because Daisy has already been, like I said, in 2 other series. She's in Christmas Sitcom, kind of like Puppy Paws. But I didn't want to get rid of her too terribly early. So I wanted to keep Daisy in at least somewhat long. Not too terribly long that it feels like she's going to overtake the season or she's getting plot armor or something, but I wanted to keep her in long enough just because she's a fun character to do. So after Daisy, then of course it was the one and only Mr. Mario. Mario, same thing as Daisy. He already won a season, plus honestly he's kind of boring. So I figured, why the heck not? We'll just get rid of Mario. I believe at this point, no wait, I'm wrong. I missed a character in there. I wondered. I was forgetting. Well, anyway, Mario got eliminated just because he's kind of boring. I did get rid of Waluigi in between Puppy Paws and Daisy, and that's only because, once again, he's already been in 2 other series, and honestly, I'm not making Waluigi win, whether you like it or not. Whether you love him or not as a character, whether you think he's overrated, whether you think he's underrated, I don't care. Waluigi was not making it to the finale. So, yep, Waluigi got out after Puppy Paws, but before Daisy. This was when the tribe swap happened. So I'm like, well, once again, like Sonic Amy, Bowser Jr., that's a duo there. I don't mind getting rid of, one or the other. So Waluigi was the one that ended up getting eliminated. Next up, after Mario, is the merge. So actually, originally what was going to happen was the first person that was going to get eliminated in merge was Wario, if you didn't know that. Wario was originally going to be the first person eliminated on the merge. But I ended up changing that around because I didn't want a Stuffed Animal Amazing Race Season 3 situation. I didn't want too many boring characters. And I saw a few of those kind of still in there. Not a lot, but one of the characters that was definitely probably the most boring at that point was Alex. So Alex ended up getting eliminated at merge, opposed to we'll get to her later, but she was originally going to get something else, but instead she was the first eliminated merge just because I didn't want too many boring characters to stay in it, and I wanted to kind of keep the drama on a little bit longer with Wario, but then he would end up being the next one eliminated because, once again, I don't want to give him plot armor because we already know that many people were going to be targeting Wario at that point. He kind of put a big target on himself. After Wario was Sonic. It's kind of the same situation. Once again, now Sonic has the duo with Sonic and Murphy. So obviously, I wasn't getting rid of Murphy. Whether you liked seeing Murphy or not, I don't care. Murphy was not getting eliminated then. So instead it was Sonic, just because I didn't want, a whole bunch of these main characters to make it super far. I wanted kind of the fun side characters that you don't really expect. So yeah, Sonic got out, and once again, he's a little more boring. I didn't want all the boring characters to just slip on through. Next up was Stampy and Steve. So I was really going back and forth between the two. I personally have more fun doing Stampy, but because Stampy already beat Steve in Stuffed Animal Maze Race Season 4, I decided to switch it up and have Steve beat Stampy, which I think worked because then, Steve got out the next episode. It was pretty easy because once again, these two aren't going to win. I wasn't planning on either of them winning. I think the whole time these were, of all the people in Merge, I think these were the two characters I knew 100% weren't going to make it to the finale. So I knew they were getting eliminated sometime, I just didn't know when. I wanted to get them out after, like, Sonic and Alex, because they are kind of more boring-ish characters. So that's why Steve and Stampy made it further. Plus, it's fun seeing the rivalry. It's fun making it and stuff. Then I knew at that point that's when Cole was going to be eliminated. This is at the point where we're getting to the point where it was about a month ago that, not a month ago actually, it was probably a little longer than that I was basically trying to get my finale done because I was going so back and forth on the finale. We'll talk about that later in the future. But Cole's one of those characters, once again, I was not, thinking of making it to the finale. Besides, he was working with Bowser, but then eventually, it all catches up with him and he got eliminated. Then, of course, Wave. For Wave, it was fun doing the her and Hammer Bro thing, but once again, that's another duo, and I don't want all these duos just making it to the finale. So, even if Wave was the last Sonic and female character, she did get eliminated. So then, of course, we have our final three, Bowser, Murphy, and Hammer Bro. So one of those characters that I 100% knew was making it to the finale, no matter what, and I never changed my mind on this, was Murphy. I wanted Murphy to kind of have his time to shine. He's never been on anything before, so I know there's certain people who weren't the biggest fans of Murphy, like this guy, but at the end of the day, I knew this was my series, and I knew this was what I was going to end up doing. So whether you liked Murphy or not, this is what ended up happening. Because he made it to the finale, I already knew he was. The other two were the ones that were a little hard. I don't know there were so many characters that I wanted to put in the finale. Originally, I think, when I first made this, Sonic was supposed to be in the finale, and he was supposed to win. So that was my first thing. Then I changed it around, and Alex was supposed to make it in the finale, and she was supposed to win. But I'm like, that is so boring. Alex was one of the most boring characters this season. Once they, changed tribes and stuff, even, before that, she was just a boring character to do. So I wasn't going to have her make it any further than what she ended up making. Then, that's when I started thinking about maybe Hammer Bro making it to the finale, which he did. And, of course, Wave making it to the finale, which she did not. But I was considering Wave. I was even considering frickin' Wario at some point. Because, why the heck not? The more drama, the better, I guess. But, that didn't end up happening. But I figured, what about Bowser? Bowser's kind of a wild card, and he hasn't really made it far in his seasons. I wanted to kind of give the spotlight to characters who didn't get big spotlights in their prior seasons. And I think it worked out, because Bowser, who didn't really do the greatest in his Stuffed Animal Maze Race seasons, made it to the finale. Same with Hammer Bro, and, of course, Murphy, who we've never even seen before. So now it just came down to who the heck was going to win. And as much as I wanted it to be Murphy, I would have 100% would have done Murphy. But I didn't want to do Murphy, just because I knew it would be very, very predictable from those certain people that I just mentioned. All right, enough shaving my brother. He has his own opinions on who he likes too. So I figured, well, I'm going to have it my way and bring Murphy to the finale, but I'll be nice to my brother, and I'll let someone else win. But originally, back when I first did this, when I first started Total Drama Plush, this was going to be the only season. I didn't want to do another Stuffed Animal Amazing Race where I had 4 seasons, so I had to keep up with it. But after doing Total Drama Plus Season 1, yeah, I definitely changed my mind a little bit on that. We'll get more on that later. Anyway, back to whoever I was just talking about. Our final 3 with Murphy, Bowser, and Hammer Bro. I think there was at one point that I was considering Bowser winning, but I started thinking in my head, all right, well, who what makes sense, because I know it isn't going to make sense for them to vote Hammer Bro to win. They're going to vote Murphy to win, because that's how the game has kind of been seen, if you know what I mean. So obviously I knew Sonic was on Murphy, Cole on Bowser, and for Hammer Bro I knew it was going to be a little harder. I could do Wario, because he could be, upset with Bowser and Murphy, but who else? So I guess Wave, that's why I did that thing in the second to last episode with Wave and Hammer Bro, where they did that funny thing where um, if Wave let Hammerbro go, then she would vote for him. I didn't want to make it too obvious that Wave was going home that episode, but it kind of did. But that's only because I knew I had to give Hammerbro more votes, otherwise I knew Murphy was going to win, because it was kind of hard for people to be like, oh, let's vote for the stupid guy to win. What about the player that played the best? So yeah, it does kind of seem off like that, but I was like, well, I'll try. And I was really, really tempted to have Murphy win, because I love Murphy and I think he was great. He was fun to do and he definitely deserved it. But I was sticking to my word and I was gonna do Hammer Bro. I guess sticking to my own word because nobody knew, of course. But then of course Steve and Alec were the ones that were just like, I guess we'll vote for Hammer Bro, because why the heck not? They can make the excuse that Murphy's a kid, so he doesn't deserve it, and Murphy's fine without winning anyway. That's fair enough, and Hammer Bro winning was kind of goofy, honestly, now that I think about it. And it worked out. Alright. So that's kind of behind the scenes of that. So on to, kind of the series as a whole. So we get into episode 2, and, well, mainly it's episode 2 where a lot of this started. But I started a little bit in episode 1. Obviously, you can't have a series without drama. And what's the best total drama plush? Well, drama, of course. So, obviously, there's some gimmies like Mario versus Bowser, Steve versus Stampy. Those are easy ones. But, what about Wario and Waluigi? They're bad guys as well. Well, what about the newbie Murphy? And I think it worked really well. At that time, I should say. When I first started the drama between those three characters, it worked out. Because it was, these two bully, bad guys ganging up against Murphy. And that's when a lot of my ideas came to mind of, all right, Murphy working with Sonic and Amy. But then Amy gets eliminated because, they want to kind of teach Murphy a lesson in a way. But then eventually Waluigi gets eliminated. Then eventually, like, Wario and Sonic get eliminated. So, once again, I didn't really think of the elimination order that far at that point. It was mainly just, I need to think of who is going to get in what placement at this specific time. What's going to be the best thing that's not going to make it too obvious, or not just have someone be plot armored all the way through this season. Because if you know me, I don't like having plot armor things. So I try to make the story work in a way that isn't going to make it too obvious who's going home, but also isn't going to just make this one character get tons of plot armor, because I don't like that. So, yeah, anyway, back to the drama with Waluigi Murphy. I figured, Sonic's a good guy, and, he's the main Sonic character, so why not stick up for this newbie that nobody knows? And that worked really well throughout the whole season. Certain things would just pop in my head, and I just end up doing it, like the one where Wario was blocking Murphy in front of the challenge, and then everyone's yelling at Wario. Okay, the problem with that is that some of that drama started getting a little bit too big, I think. It just became a little too much. I was having too much fun with it, I think. But it was at the point where I just wanted to make Wario and Waluigi seem like these really bad people. They really aren't, obviously. But it got to the point where, I would just keep going and going, if you know what I mean. So that's why I did things like I switched the tribes up a little bit, because I wanted to find some different drama. Obviously, I wanted to still kind of keep that in the back of my head, but not have that be just the main story of the whole season, because that's kind of what it was turning into, in a way. So that's why I switched the tribes up, got Waluigi out, and kind of, settled and Alex moved all the contestants away and stuff. It was still at that point, like in that point of the season, where Alex was going to be the winner of the season, but then just like after those two episodes back to back, Alex just became such a boring character, I think. Like, she was just a boring character to do, which is why she got eliminated when she did, and not win. So, I remember thinking of that whole thing in my head. I forget if I was at work or if I was at, I was wherever, and I was thinking about how I was going to have some of these situations work out. Like the Alex birthday party, the episode after, where they're planning a birthday party for Alex, just to get back into the camp. But then that was the same episode where they ended up switching tribes anyway. So it worked out, and I wanted to kind of move the drama in a way away from Sonic, Murphy, Wario, Waluigi to other stuff, because it wasn't really working out anymore. And it just became the main plot too, whether if this team lost or won. I wanted to kind of focus, I wanted to kind of mix things up a little bit, if you know what I mean. But even without the drama, I was already predicting Waluigi to get in the placement he got in anyway. And, because I knew I wanted at least to get one of them out, just because I didn't want all these duos just dominating everything. Now, a few things on the other tribe I want to talk about. So, of course, Hammer Bro and his push-ups. That was just something goofy that I came up with because, you know, why the heck not? Hammer Bro is a fun character to do. Now, how the heck was I going to get Daisy eliminated? Because she was in a pretty good spot. Well, because she was working with Bowser, and I guess she was almost like in the middle ground, because she was obviously working with Mario and Luigi. Public Buzz already, of course, liked working with her, and then, of course, she started working with Bowser as well. So this worked out, although Bowser did say, I think it was, that he would have gotten Daisy out anyway, just because he knows that Daisy would have won. But I had to figure out a way to get Daisy out, because I know she wasn't going to make it too terribly far, but she was in a pretty good spot. So it was easy. Just get rid of Luigi, one of her potential helpers, and then it makes Mario really mad. So then Mario wants to get a bunch of people, and especially since they had tribe swap too, so some of those people didn't really know much about Daisy, or they weren't working with Daisy. So, and especially since Daisy's number one, Bowser went to the other tribe, that's how I got Daisy out. Just kind of eliminate her allies, and then she's kind of stuck. And, you know, same thing with Mario. Then everyone's just like, alright, we got Daisy out, so now we have to get Mario out next. So, I mean, it was unfortunate. I love doing Daisy. She's hilarious, but, you know, what can you do? I wasn't going to change my mind on placements because, you know, that would just look silly of me. Now, for Cole and Bowser working together, that's one of the things that just kind of popped up out of nowhere because they were the only two that ended up switching over to, I guess it was the Blue Tribe. That's something else I want to talk about, the team names. I wasn't even thinking at that point of what I wanted the team names to be, and I didn't really care much, which is why they were just simple blue and yellow team. Because I wasn't really thinking about, oh, what are the tribe names going to be? I was thinking about all the drama that these teams are going to do and stuff, not what names they're going to give themselves. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the challenges. This is easily, without a doubt, the absolute hardest part about doing these series. I wouldn't say it's the worst part, it's just the hardest part. Coming up with, what, 20 challenges to do? Yeah, it's something, alright, that's true. Okay, maybe not 20, maybe it's more like 18, but still. You know, some of these challenges came right out of Total Drama, some of them just, you know, came to mind. This is a bunch of random ones, and some of them I think worked better than others. Like, obviously those Total Drama ones, jump off a cliff, you know, do the sleepathon ones. But then there was ones that, you know, just kind of came to mind. Like, or another Total Drama one, the one where, the camping one where they have to come back, and then the one where, I'm trying to think now. The one where, like in Revenge of the Island, where they're in those chairs and they have to answer questions about them. You see, those challenges were fun, and that's why Knuckles kept making fun of Mario just by making all these Total Drama Plus, just because I didn't really know what other challenges to come up with until I did the Capture the Flag challenge. Now that, I think, challenge worked pretty well. I think it worked well and it was fun. The Rock, Paper, Scissors challenge was goofy. Questions about my channel, you know, simple, but, you know, not everything has to be super big and planned out. I don't remember all the challenges that I did. Lifting the Rock challenge. It was originally actually supposed to be 2 little weights, but they were lost, so I had to make up some sort of story because it'd be silly having characters lift up rocks. Lift up rocks. I definitely knew that I wanted to do some sort of hide-and-seek challenge, and I think this one worked out really well and ended up being hilarious to watch back. Stand on the pole challenge, obviously, is iconic, so of course I had to put that in as well. The race one, of course, as I already said. I mean, it's kind of funny now that I think about it, that Sonic got eliminated in the episode where you have to race on. So, obviously, because this was the episode Sonic was getting eliminated, I had to find some sort of way to get him out, because he wasn't going to win immunity, because he was going to be eliminated in this episode. So I just made it that. So that's why I came up with the Murphy was running too much and he forgot to drink water or something, so he got sick, so Sonic, of course, being the nice character he is, went to go save and help Murphy out. Which, of course, sweet for Sonic, but it did cost him the challenge. That's why I did it, because I knew this was the leg that he was going to get eliminated in, and he's Sonic. This should be the easiest challenge for him. So that's why I did that. Of course, some sort of eating challenge as well. That's always a gimme. It was the next two challenges, though, that I was struggling to find. So I had to really sit and think, and it took, like, I would take about the week that I knew I was going to be doing, especially since at this point I was doing one every other week now, so, because I wanted to kind of just hammer it out. But I was trying to think, and one of them that came to mind, of course, was making they're doing the Squid Game challenge, the cookie cutter, and I think that worked out pretty well. But I still had another challenge to think about because I already knew what the last one was going to be. That one was pretty easy. It was just the second to last. So I think the plane thing worked pretty well, where they had to build a plane. It was a challenge that I basically came up with like almost like last minute, but it was something that was kind of swimming around where they had to build something. So I think this worked out well for a great Final Five challenge. And then, of course, a simple "Don't Leave the Circle" challenge. We're at the point where I wasn't even doing total drama challenges anymore, unless you count the hide and seek one. That's easily the first challenge that comes to mind when I think of merge challenges. Hide and seek. It may come from total drama, it may not. I don't know, but it's just the first thing that pops in my mind. So I already knew I was going to do some sort of last person to leave the blank challenge, and it worked out really well, of course, for our finale, or I should say, our final four at the point. And once again, because of the fact that Bowser was kind of making himself a big target, I had to figure out ways to kind of lower that for him. He could work with Wave and Hammer Bro. He could make them see the other point of view, if you know what I mean. Like, oh, we need to get rid of Steve and Stampy because of X, Y, and Z. But then after that, who are we stuck with? Murphy, I guess. And of course, they weren't going to get rid of Cole. That's why I also had Cole help out Bowser, because I needed Bowser to have more allies so that he could reach the finale. The only thing was that at that point, after they got rid of Steve and Stampy, now Bowser's a little bit screwed. Because if Murphy wins a challenge, then it's basically game over for him. And I believe Murphy won one challenge. I forget which one it was. I think it was the cookie cutter one. No. I think it was the cookie cutter one. It was one of those ones. But anyway, so then, Bowser had to win like the last two immunities, because otherwise he was screwed and he was going. Actually, I think he won like the last three. Nah, it was two. He won the last two immunities because, he was one of my plan for the final three, so we got to figure out a way to do that. Now, something that is very different about this series compared to Stuffed Animal Amazing Race is the fact that when I was doing Stuffed Animal Amazing Race, I did one episode per week. Because I found a day that worked out perfectly for me, and a day that, I knew that I could film different scenes. Because sometimes we'll have friends over on certain days, and I knew I couldn't film it on those days. So I had to film it on a day that I knew I was not going to be busy, days that I knew that was going to work well for me, and that's what worked out. This series is a little different because I'm only in one location the whole time. So, I could basically do whatever I really wanted with it, and I didn't really want to have a set schedule for this series. I wanted to kind of just, let it go a little bit, because unlike Stuffed Animal Amazing Race, Season 4, or even not even that, but like the other two seasons before that, Stuffed Animal Amazing Race Season 4, I had everything planned out and written down. I didn't do that at all for this series, but I didn't really need to, because they're not traveling from this location, that location, or that location. See what works, see what doesn't work. Stuff like that. This was brand new for me, and I wanted to more see, I wasn't worried about, like the challenges and whatnot. I was more about the drama, who was going to make it further and stuff like that. The challenges I just come up with, like the day of or something, and they would usually work out pretty well. So I didn't have to worry about writing everything down. I just more kind of did it at my own pace when it came to filming episodes. Because, yeah, this took longer than any of the Stuffed Animal Amazing Races. It took 8 months from October to June. But like I said, once I got towards the end, like final 6 or 7, I think it was, then I think it was the final 6 where I started like doing episodes then every other week, because I'm a lot busier now, so I can't do as many YouTube videos on other days that aren't Sundays. I can if I really wanted to, but I am busy, so it's a little bit harder to do that. So I didn't want to just have every single video be Total Drum Push, and that's it. So that's why I kind of spread it out a little more. Plus, it was, it worked nice for me. That's something else I just thought about too. I usually take a break in January, so I knew I was going to be kind of cutting this season up a little bit. So, it's okay. My brother does it over the winter as well. when he does this. He's currently working on his third season, so that's crazy. And speaking of other seasons, I said we'd get back to this. After doing Total Drama Plus Season 1, it's fair to say I did really enjoy this series, and I think I liked the way I did it, where I kind of spread it out, opposed to doing one once a week. So I liked doing Total Drama Plus Season 1. In fact, there'd be times where I'd be at work, and I'm here already thinking of a whole cast for Season 2. So because I did enjoy Total Drama Plus Season 1, and there is more characters that I think could get a fun chance at being on this series, I think that I'm gonna do another Total Drama Plus series, even if it's something that I wasn't gonna do when I first started this series. It's something that I think I've grown to, kind of maybe more want to do as time went on. This was only going to be a one season thing, but now that I think about it, and now that I also have other contestants in mind that I could definitely do for a season 2, then yeah, bring it on. So speaking of which, yeah, it's confirmed I am going to be doing a season 2 eventually on the series. And yeah, I will say I have already been thinking of contestants that I could do, and I want to do a better job of thinking of brand new contestants on like other series that I did where it ended up pretty bad. So don't expect a bajillion young teams or a bajillion boring teams. That's definitely not what I'm striving for season 2. It's going to be fun people for me at least, depending on whether you like them or not. I obviously haven't thought of the whole cast yet, and I haven't even thought of when I'm even going to start a season 2 yet. It could potentially at earliest be this year, but I wouldn't, put my whole heart out on that, because I could change my mind. Something could happen. Who knows? But if I do want to start a series this year, it could potentially be October again. Who knows? Heck, maybe it'll be July. I seriously doubt that, though. That would be very silly if I do one in July. That's a few weeks. That's like a week away. Well, and I do have other videos in mind that I do want to do this upcoming month. So yeah, expect a Total Drama Plus Season 2 to come at earliest in October, at latest sometime in 2027, potentially wintertime. I think it was great, though, doing this in the wintertime, just because the fact that, wintertime is boring. I'm not as busy in the wintertime, so I think it worked out great the way I did it. The only difference I want to do for Season 2 is potentially take less breaks, so it isn't 8 months, maybe like 6 or 7 months. To do a season, opposed to 8 months. So that would be Season 2. So yeah, I'm already thinking of a cast for Season 2, and it's something that will come in the future. It's just a matter of when. I want to make sure Season 2 comes good. And yeah, I do plan on having Firefly Mario and Knuckles be host and co-host again, but I was also potentially thinking of Hammer Bro as well, since he won this season, so why the heck not? But of course, if I do a Total Drama Plus Season 2, you know what that means, right? That means eventually we're going to have to do an All-Star season as well. And I'm sure I'm already thinking of a few Season 1 contestants that I'd like to do again, if the camera isn't really focusing on one of those characters, as you can see. So anyway, that's another props for not having Murphy win. I can bring him back. Well, anyway, so yeah, definitely want to do a Season 2 in the future. And if I do a Season 2 with brand new characters, then of course Season 3 will definitely be an All-Star season. So, I'm not having a third season being new characters, alright? Alright, so I think that's pretty much all the gist of Total Drama Plush. It's fun kind of looking behind the scenes of what was it going to be, what things were going to change, what were my original plans for this and that. It's fun to look back on some of those things and reflect on, a lot of that. It was a really great season overall. Now, if I was counting it with the Amazing Race seasons, we already know what the worst one is, right? But second worst is still Season 1 of Stuffed Animal Amazing Race. That's almost a season that I would want to, like, redo just because of how lazily made it was. Followed by then Season 2 of Stuffed Animal Amazing Race. Then we get to the two toughies, Total Drama Plush 1 or Stuffed Animal Amazing Race 4. Because both of those series, I think, were done the best. So, okay, here's the thing. Stuffed Animal 4, I feel like, is a great conclusion, but Total Drama Plush 1, I feel like, is a great brand new thing, if you know what I mean. So I'm gonna give those both our tie as first place, if I'm counting that in with all that. So yeah, that was Total Drama Plus Season 1, all the behind the scenes and stuff of what that season could have been and, changes and whatnot. So stay tuned for a future season 2. I'm sure you'll know when that is because I'm pretty sure just like with season 1, I'll drop an intro before I do episode 1 and then, we'll go from there. Maybe I'll try to plan a little better because that hardest part is still trying to figure out challenges. It always is, but who knows? So expect a lot of the same challenges when we get into season 2. So yeah, there's nothing much else I have to say. This was a great season. I'm glad that I tried it, and I really did enjoy it and really liked it. So much that I do want to do a season 2, which is something, like I said, I wasn't planning on originally doing. Alright, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. A few announcements. I'm gonna make a video next Sunday. However, I guess I might the following as well. But we're getting into busy season, so not next Sunday, but that week after is when we're going down to our yearly beach trip. So if you're not, subscribe to my other channel, Random Vid Shorts, and I'll be doing a live stream there, probably on Wednesday night, depending on what I'm feeling. And we're gonna be doing a live stream of me walking around the hotel and the outside, as long as it isn't rainy. If it is, I might have to move it. But yeah, that's my plans for that. Maybe we'll see another video on this channel because I am gonna be a little less busier in some of these weeks before we go on our trip. But yeah, we'll see. Hope you guys have a great day and a great Sunday, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great summer too. I don't think I even mentioned that last time. Have a great summer. It's summertime, baby.